What if I told you that waking up at 3 a.m. every night might not be random? In fact, your body may be trying to tell you something. And the message could be more important than you realize. Millions of Americans wake up sometime between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Some glance at the clock. Some stare at the ceiling. Some toss and turn for hours. And many eventually ask themselves the same frustrating question. Why does this keep happening? Why do I wake up at the exact same time almost every night? Is it stress? Is it aging? Is something wrong with my health? Or is this simply a normal part of getting older? The answer may surprise you. Because while occasional nighttime waking is completely normal, repeatedly waking up around 3 a.m. may have several underlying causes. Some are harmless. Some deserve more attention. And one of them affects millions of adults without them even realizing it. Today, we're going to uncover the most common reasons people wake up at 3 a.m., what sleep experts say about it, and simple changes that may help you sleep through the night again. And make sure you stay until the end. Because the number one mistake people make after waking up at 3 a.m. may actually make the problem worse. Let's begin. First, here's something that surprises many people. Waking up briefly during the night is actually normal. That's right. Even healthy sleepers wake up multiple times throughout the night. The difference is that most people don't remember it. Their brains quickly return to sleep. So they wake up in the morning believing they slept straight through the night. But as we get older, something changes. And this is where things start getting interesting. Sleep becomes lighter. The deep, restorative sleep that was common in younger years often decreases with age. This means you're more likely to notice sounds, temperature changes, minor discomfort, and normal sleep cycle transitions. In other words, you may not be waking up more often. You may simply be remembering it more often. But wait, that's not the most surprising part. Because what happens next shocked many sleep researchers. The real problem often isn't the waking up. It's the inability to fall back asleep. And one of the biggest reasons may be something happening inside your body while you're sleeping. Let's talk about blood sugar. Most people never connect blood sugar with sleep. But the relationship is surprisingly important. Imagine this. You eat dinner. You go to bed. Your body spends the night regulating energy while you sleep. For some people, blood sugar levels may fluctuate during the night. When this happens, the body sometimes responds by releasing stress hormones. And those hormones can make you more alert. Suddenly, your eyes open. You look at the clock. It's 3:07 a.m. Again. Sound familiar? Now, this doesn't happen to everyone. But it may be one reason some people repeatedly wake up during the same window each night. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Because the next possible cause has nothing to do with food. Nothing to do with your mattress. And nothing to do with your bedroom. It has everything to do with stress. Even if you don't feel stressed. Most people think stress only affects them during the day. Deadlines, bills, family responsibilities, health concerns, work pressures. But your brain doesn't always shut those worries off when you go to sleep. In fact, many experts believe the early morning hours are when stress-related awakenings become most noticeable. Why? Because around that time, your body begins preparing to wake up. And that's where a hormone called cortisol enters the story. Now don't panic when you hear the word cortisol. Cortisol isn't bad. It's actually essential. Think of it as your body's natural alarm clock. Every morning, cortisol gradually rises to help you wake up and become alert. That's completely normal. But here's what most Americans don't realize. For some people, cortisol may begin rising too early. And when it does, it may contribute to those frustrating 3 a.m. wake-ups. You wake up suddenly. Your mind feels active. Thoughts start racing. And falling back asleep becomes difficult. But that's not the most surprising part. Because many people don't recognize stress as the cause. They think, I'm not stressed. Yet they're lying in bed at 3 a.m. replaying conversations from 3 days ago. Thinking about tomorrow's schedule. Worrying about family members. Planning future events. Analyzing problems. And before they know it, an hour has passed. Now here's where things become especially important for adults over 60. Because aging itself may contribute to these nighttime awakenings. And one reason affects millions of seniors every single night. The bathroom. Let's be honest. If you're over 60, you've probably experienced this. You wake up needing to urinate. You head to the bathroom. Then you crawl back into bed. But instead of falling asleep, your brain suddenly decides it's time to start thinking about everything. And that's when the real struggle begins. But what if those bathroom trips aren't the whole story? What if something else is waking you up first, and the bathroom trip is simply what you notice afterward? That's exactly what many sleep experts are now exploring. And what they discovered may completely change the way you think about your 3 a.m. wake-ups. Because one hidden cause affects millions of adults, and many don't even know they have it. We'll uncover that next. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked reasons people wake up at 3 a.m. And surprisingly, many people don't even know they have it. I'm talking about breathing problems during sleep. Specifically, sleep apnea. Now, when most people hear the term sleep apnea, they imagine someone who snores loudly. And while snoring can be a warning sign, the story is often much bigger than that. Sleep apnea occurs when breathing repeatedly slows down or temporarily stops during sleep. When this happens, the body may react by briefly waking you up. Sometimes for only a few seconds. Sometimes long enough for you to remember it. And here's the strange part. Many people have no memory of these awakenings at all. They simply know one thing. They keep waking up during the night. They feel exhausted in the morning. And they never seem fully rested. Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Millions of Americans live with sleep apnea and many remain undiagnosed. But wait, that's not the most surprising part. Because what happened next shocked many sleep specialists. Some people assume their sleep is poor because they're tired, when in reality, they're tired because their sleep is poor. And the hidden culprit may be affecting them night after night. Now, let's talk about something almost everyone does when they wake up at 3 a.m. Something that feels harmless, but maybe making the problem much worse. You open your eyes. You grab your phone. And you check the time. Maybe it's 3:04. Maybe it's 3:17. Maybe it's 3:28. Doesn't matter. The moment you see that number, something happens. Your brain starts calculating. I only have 3 more hours to sleep. If I don't fall asleep soon, tomorrow will be terrible. Why is this happening again? And suddenly you're no longer relaxing. You're worrying. Now here's where things get really interesting. The clock itself isn't the problem. The phone isn't even the main problem. The problem is the stress reaction that follows. Because once anxiety enters the picture, falling asleep becomes much harder. Think about it. Have you ever desperately tried to force yourself to sleep? How well did that work? Probably not very well. Sleep is one of the few things in life that becomes harder when you chase it. The more pressure you put on yourself, the more awake you often become. And that's exactly what happens to many people at 3 a.m. But here's something most Americans don't realize. The next cause may actually begin hours before bedtime. Let's talk about caffeine. Now, before coffee lovers get upset, this isn't about giving up coffee. For many people, coffee isn't a problem at all. The issue is timing. Caffeine can remain in the body much longer than many people realize. In some individuals, caffeine consumed in the afternoon may still affect sleep later that night, which means that innocent cup of coffee at 4 p.m. could potentially influence what happens at 3 a.m. And here's the tricky part. Not everyone responds to caffeine the same way. Some people can drink coffee after dinner and sleep perfectly. Others are far more sensitive. That's why paying attention to your own body's response can be helpful. But that's not all. Because another nighttime habit may be quietly sabotaging your sleep. And most people never suspect it. Let's talk about alcohol. Many people believe alcohol helps them sleep. And in a way, it can. Alcohol may make some people feel sleepy initially. The problem comes later. As the body processes alcohol during the night, sleep quality may be affected. People often experience lighter sleep, more awakenings, and more disrupted sleep cycles. In other words, alcohol may help you fall asleep, but it doesn't always help you stay asleep. And for some people, that means another 3 a.m. wake-up call. But wait, the real problem starts after age 60. Because sleep naturally changes as we age. Many older adults spend less time in deep sleep than they did in their younger years. This means normal disruptions become more noticeable. A sound outside, a slight change in temperature, a pet moving across the room, a small discomfort. Things that once went unnoticed may now wake you up. And that's perfectly normal. But here's where people make a mistake. They assume every nighttime awakening means something is wrong. Sometimes it doesn't. In fact, occasional waking is part of normal human sleep. The real question is this: can you fall back asleep? If the answer is yes, the problem may be much smaller than you think. But if you're lying awake for long periods night after night, that's when it's worth paying closer attention. And what we're about to discuss may be the biggest factor of all. Because the number one reason many people stay awake at 3 a.m. isn't their bladder. It isn't caffeine. It isn't their mattress. And it isn't even aging. It's what they do after they wake up. And once you understand this mistake, you may never look at nighttime wake-ups the same way again. Now we've reached the most important part of this discussion. Because the biggest reason many people stay awake at 3 a.m. isn't what wakes them up. It's what happens after they wake up. Think about it. Two people wake up at exactly 3:07 a.m. The first person briefly wakes up, rolls over, and falls back asleep within a few minutes. The second person wakes up, checks the clock, starts worrying, and spends the next hour staring at the ceiling. Same wake-up time, completely different outcome. Why? Because the second person accidentally triggers what sleep experts often call the sleep stress cycle. The moment they realize they're awake, their brain switches into problem-solving mode. I have a big day tomorrow. I need to get back to sleep. Why does this keep happening? What if I'm exhausted tomorrow? And suddenly, the body starts becoming more alert instead of less alert. Heart rate may increase. Thoughts begin racing. Stress rises. And sleep moves even farther away. But here's what most people don't realize. The real damage isn't caused by being awake for a few minutes. It's caused by the panic that follows. And that's a game-changing realization. Because it means you may have more control than you think. Now imagine this. You wake up at 3 a.m. Instead of checking the clock. Instead of grabbing your phone. Instead of worrying. You simply accept that you're awake for the moment. No frustration. No mental battle. No pressure. Just calm acceptance. Ironically, this often makes it easier to fall back asleep. Because sleep is not something you can force. It's something you allow. And that's a lesson many people spend years learning. But wait, that's not the most surprising part. Because the next mistake may be making your 3 a.m. wake-ups much worse without you even realizing it. Let's talk about screens. The phone, the tablet, the television, the laptop. Most people think, I'm just checking the time. Then they see a notification, then an email, then social media, then a news headline. And before they know it, their brain is fully awake. Now the body thinks it's time to start the day. And falling asleep becomes much more difficult. This is why many sleep experts recommend keeping screens out of the nighttime equation whenever possible. Because once your brain receives that stimulation, the road back to sleep often becomes much longer. But here's something that surprised many researchers. The solution to nighttime wake-ups isn't always improving what happens at night. Sometimes the solution starts during the day. Think about it. Sleep doesn't begin when your head hits the pillow. Sleep begins with everything you do throughout the day. Your activity levels, your stress levels, your eating habits, your caffeine intake, your exposure to sunlight. All of these factors influence what happens after midnight. And this is especially important for adults over 60. Because one habit becomes incredibly powerful as we age. Morning sunlight. Most Americans spend far less time outside than previous generations. Yet sunlight plays an important role in helping regulate the body's internal clock. When your brain receives bright natural light in the morning, it gets a stronger signal about when to be awake and when to be sleepy later. In other words, a better morning often leads to a better night. But that's not all. Regular physical activity may also support better sleep quality. Now, this doesn't mean you need intense workouts. Many older adults benefit from simple activities. Walking, gardening, light exercise, staying active during the day. Movement helps the body build natural sleep pressure. And that pressure makes it easier to sleep later. But here's where things become really interesting. Many people become so focused on the clock that they overlook a simple truth. Not every 3 a.m. wake-up is a medical problem. Sometimes it's simply part of being human. Remember what we discussed earlier. Everyone wakes up during the night. Everyone. The difference is that some people fall back asleep quickly while others become fully alert. And understanding that difference can be incredibly freeing. Because once you stop treating every wake-up as an emergency, you often reduce the stress that's keeping you awake. Now, let's quickly review the most common reasons people wake up at 3 a.m. Number 1. Changes in sleep patterns that naturally occur with age. Number 2. Stress and anxiety that become more noticeable during the early morning hours. Number 3. Blood sugar fluctuations that may contribute to nighttime awakenings. Number 4. Bathroom trips and age-related changes. Number 5. Sleep apnea and breathing-related sleep disruptions. Number 6. Caffeine consumed too late in the day. Number 7. Alcohol interfering with normal sleep cycles. And finally, the biggest factor of all, your reaction after waking up. Because that reaction often determines whether you're awake for 5 minutes or awake for an hour. So, what should you do if you wake up at 3 a.m.? First, don't panic. One rough night doesn't mean something is wrong. Second, avoid checking your phone whenever possible. Third, don't obsess over the clock. Fourth, focus on relaxing rather than forcing sleep. And fifth, if these wake-ups are frequent, persistent, or affecting your daily life, consider discussing them with a healthcare professional. Because sometimes poor sleep may be linked to an underlying issue that deserves attention. Here's the most important takeaway from today's video. Your body isn't trying to punish you. It's trying to communicate with you. A 3 a.m. wake-up may be related to stress, sleep habits, lifestyle factors, aging, or another underlying cause. The key is understanding the message rather than fearing it. Because when you understand what's happening, you can start making changes that support better sleep. And better sleep supports almost everything else. Energy, mood, memory, focus, physical health, even healthy aging. So the next time you wake up at 3 a.m., remember this. The wake-up itself may not be the problem. What matters most is what happens next. Now I'm curious. How often do you wake up during the night? And what time do you usually wake up? 2 a.m.? 3 a.m.? 4 a.m.? Let me know in the comments below. I read as many comments as possible, and I'd love to hear your experience. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more healthy aging and wellness content. Because your next good night's sleep might start with information most people never hear. Thank you for watching. Sleep well. Stay healthy. And I'll see you in the next video.